What's up, everybody? Happy Friday, high noon. Welcome. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, going live from Brooklyn, New York. I'm hanging out in my restaurant, Della, which is on Prospect Ave in the Windsor Terrace section of Brooklyn, which is where I got to know my guest today. Before I bring him on, I'm going to give you the message of the week. Get out of here. I've been thinking a lot lately about social entrepreneurship. This was a concept that I was really introduced to by a former guest, Josh Margolis, who was on, and it's either December or January, I can't remember which. But this idea of, and the message is really about what you do as an entrepreneur that makes you a better human, but at the same time makes the world a better place. Makes me think a lot of my guests today and what he's done with his company. He's a startup guy. He's an entrepreneur. I think he's also a lawyer. He does a number of things, but we first met at the local martial arts school. We were kickboxing partners. We were not sparring partners, but we did.
I wouldn't dare spar with you, Jeremiah.
We did some partner work together. So welcome to the show, Adam Farbiarz. Is that how you say your last name?
Pretty close. Farbiarz.
Okay. Farbiarz. It was the guy was from Brazil, like my brother, the Farbiarz.
Who's Farbiarz from Brazil?
I'm kidding.
It's
an inside joke.
I'll accept it.
How are you?
I'm
today?
very well, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that warm introduction.
Aw, you're welcome.
Yeah, the local kickboxing studio, which I used to attend. Now I'd rather just be a little.
Well, we all used to attend.
Thicker in the midsection. Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's better for jiu-jitsu if you're a little thicker in the midsection.
Oh yeah, maybe.
You just make the transition.
Jeremiah would go to the secret room in the back and do like the ninja training that only like 3 people were allowed to go and do.
Yes, I still do it. I got to do it in the park now, but I still do it. And I still do some kickboxing. My wife trains, so her and I continue to do stuff. We were working out this morning. So you're here in the hood. You're in Windsor Terrace.
Yeah, I'm in my apartment, which is like a 6-minute walk away from where you're sitting right now. I'm on Seeley Street.
So continuing with the theme that I've kind of had for the last few episodes is definitely hospitality, which is one industry I'm heavily involved in. But lately, it's also like my guest last week was a former employee who got into startups as well. Oh, he started in startups and he became a bartender. He was explaining last week, he began in education. He became a bartender because his first one went under. He lost money and he needed a job that made him quick money to kind of get back on top. And he was a good bartender. And what he learned along the way was that he actually could merge the two. And he began a couple startups in the hospitality industry. He was in fact at Della last night. He was here. He rented the bar out for an hour to host a virtual happy hour that was like broadcast all over the world. So that's part of what he's doing with his company now, making adjustments to it. And Adam as well. Did I get it correct? You have a background in law? I think you told me that.
Right? I'm a lawyer by training. I practiced law for like 8-10 years. I don't even know.
And what aspect of law do you specialize in?
Oh, do we really want to talk about law? It's so much less interesting than DeliverZero.
Yeah, just for a second. I just want people to know. That way it's on a...
So I practice, big law, big litigation, companies fighting with companies about business stuff, not like divorces, not like someone got hit by a truck, but like, companies fighting with each other about, what their contracts say basically. So I was a generalist litigator, did a little bit of consumer protection stuff also, some class action defense also, but as a generalist litigator, I practice in the city. I'm still affiliated with a law firm, although I do less and less in work for them and with them.
And where did you go to school at?
Oh man, I went to Yale. Went to Yale undergrad and then went to Yale Law School.
I heard of that. It's a good school.
It's actually okay. It's actually okay.
And did you study some business to kind of direct you into this aspect of law?
No, not really. Like I don't have a business training. I mean, I think that law is awesome because the thing about working in law, particularly in litigation, is you get to look under the hood of lots of different kinds of businesses, especially when they fall apart, right? Because once I'm involved in a case, it's because, shit has gone downhill in a big way, right? Yep. It'd be different if I was writing the contract. I'm the guy who's litigating the problem, trying to do like the postmortem, what went wrong here.
Yeah.
So it gives you insight into lots of different kinds of businesses. You meet lots of important people, right? You meet the C-suite because they're concerned about, the problem. So you get to look under the hood. It's useful in that way. It teaches you kind of how to speak to power. How to talk to the C-suite, how to talk to the investors, how to negotiate over giant sums of money or whatever, which is not saying that like I in my normal life would be comfortable doing, but like law teaches you to like fake it, right? Okay, I'm gonna negotiate this $100 million settlement, which is not something a normal person would ever do. Not saying I would even do in my own business, right? But it gets you comfortable with dealing with that kind of level of power. So yeah, I think it's helpful. And then of course, like, legal stuff comes up every day in my own business. So, I have that leg up. I can do the legal stuff as a trained lawyer. But, as far as operationally running a business, like finding a guy, hiring him, selling a product to a restaurant, I mean, that's just business stuff. That's just like, intuition that,
school doesn't really teach that,
school
right?
doesn't teach that. Maybe some schools do, but law
bit.
schools certainly don't teach that.
And did you ever have your own law practice, or were you always under the umbrella of another?
I was affiliated with a law firm.
Okay.
I never had my practice. I worked for two big firms, one giant firm and one medium-sized firm by New York City standards.
It's interesting what you were just saying about getting to look under the hood as a lawyer. A few weeks ago, I brought on Eric Sarver, who's a Manhattan business and employment law attorney, and he has his own practice. He actually just started his own show here on talkradio.nyc. I think last week was his first show. But he said something very similar where he was representing all these businesses. He has his own practice, so he kind of was seeing it from both angles. But he said, definitely from seeing them like start to crumble and working out like a lot of their issues gave him a lot of extra insights to run a successful business. That's got to be a nice little edge. So what directed you towards, startups in particular and like owning your own company and starting your own company? Because we didn't mention this yet. Let's officially announce Adam as the founder and CEO of DeliverZero, which is a reusable, sustainable takeout container. You're basically a B2B company for restaurants.
I'm actually B2C. I'm a marketplace. I'm actually a marketplace.
Okay.
I don't know. What is Grubhub? Is Grubhub B2B or B2C? I'm not sure. It's like kind of both.
It is.
It's a marketplace, right? You find there are restaurants and then there are people who are eating food, and Grubhub or DeliverZero just sort of is trying to marry those two together, right? It's trying to make that interaction
But you
happen.
solicit restaurants more than direct to consumers, correct?
No, not exactly. I mean, so you go to DeliverZero.com and you are a consumer. You type in your address and you order food through DeliverZero.com. It's funny, in my day-to-day sort of job, I'm the guy who's knocking on a restaurant's door and talking to restaurants shamelessly. And I have two partners who I do this with. I have another partner, my partner Lauren. She's the person who's sort of more facing consumers, who's saying, hey, order your food through DeliverZero.com. So we do both, obviously, because it's a marketplace.
Gotcha.
We have to have sellers and buyers to make the marketplace work. We have to have restaurants and we have to have diners. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm the guy facing the restaurants, and my partner Lauren is the person facing the consumers typically.
Understood. That's a great
more
explanation.
Likable than I am.
Yeah, you're likable. Thank you for clarifying that. That actually is like really interesting and expanding like the scope of what you do, as a business as opposed to just thinking I'm this or I'm that.
Maybe I'll just give a quick. What
Go
the business is basically like we built DeliverZero to basically look and feel as much as possible like all those other platforms, Grubhub, Caviar, Uber Eats, whatever. So you go on the website, DeliverZero.com, and like you just type in your address and you find food, there's a menu and you order food or whatever. But there's a big twist, right? The twist is when the food shows up at your house from whatever restaurant you ordered from, it shows up in reusable packaging. Not recyclable. It actually is recyclable also, but it's packaging that gets reused. So it's like a dish or a fork or a knife that you put in a dishwasher and it gets reused. And the environmental benefits of reuse are tremendous, far exceed recycling, which is a so-so solution. Recycling is not that great.
Right.
But you get your food, and then you have these, eat your food, and then you have these reusable containers in your house, which the whole point of the system is they get reused. You return them to a restaurant. And you can return them in one of two ways. You can actually walk back to any restaurant on the platform and say, here are my old containers. But the more fun way of doing it, and what we see more often, is on your next order from whatever restaurant, so you get your new food in new containers, and you hand your old containers back to the delivery guy. So the return happens right at your door. You know, hey, hang on a second, I got some old containers. You just give them right back to the delivery guy. So this is, this is an environmental solution to this like ridiculous waste problem of all the single-use packaging that comes with restaurant takeout and delivery.
And again, what pushed you in just away from law and into this?
So, I mean,
what was
a few things. I mean,
you had a job. What was the problem?
Yeah, I had a job. I mean, I'm like a weirdo and a creative person, and like,
I'll vouch for that.
I do like artistic things, and like,
What was it one time you stopped me on the street and you were like, what's your favorite drummer? Just out of nowhere. It was like, that was a long conversation.
You gave some crazy answers to that because like you knew some weird ass drummers. I like weird free music, old free jazz and all that weird stuff too.
Yeah.
But that's another conversation. But I just knew that like, I wanted to do something creative and wild and big. And I could see myself getting a little bit older, and like I was just getting, not that there's anything wrong with practicing law. It's good. It's good day-to-day job, but it's not a wild thing to do. So my wife was very supportive. She's like, yeah, quit your job, figure it out. And it took me a while to figure it out. I just knew that I wanted to do not a small business. There's a difference between having a small business and having a startup. A startup is like a small business, like makes you money on day one. Like you're running Della is like a small business, even if it's big. It's it's a small business. Like on day one, you open, you sell duck ragu, and you just made some money.
Right.
With DeliverZero, it's like I don't make any money. I make some money, but I lose money every day. If it takes off, if I can get investment, and if I can, grow it, then it'll make a lot of money. It'll be successful. It'll be a successful big business. But I knew I wanted to do something like that. That is a startup as opposed to a small business, an all-in kind of crazy bet. And it took me a while to figure it out, but I knew I wanted to do something also in the restaurant space. But that was it. It was really just about like passion and personality that made me feel like I wanted to do something big and crazy.
Cool. Awesome. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to pick back up with your passion and personality when we get back. So everybody stay tuned to get all that juice. We'll be back in just a minute, everybody. Hang tight. Okay, folks, we're back again. It's the Entrepreneurial Web, 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock every Friday. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox, here with my friend and neighbor, founder and CEO of DeliverZero, Adam Farbiarz. Welcome back, Mr. Farbiarz.
Thank you, Jeremiah.
So we were just talking about your passion and your, what did you say? It was too,
I don't know. It had some zing to it.
It did. It was really great. No, I do appreciate that you making the distinction though between, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and especially after having Tor on last week, and the guy 2 weeks ago was the guy that took over my old coffee shop. It's now called Poetica Coffee. Have you been by there yet?
Yeah.
He's a fascinating dude. He's a croissant. Senor Farbiarz and his croissants. He's a really fascinating character. You should talk to him. His name is Farbiarz, and he really blew my mind. Like on our first conversation, and I was like, "You got to come on the show. We got to talk."
What's his deal?
He's he just like serial entrepreneur. He's going after everything and just he sees everything as an opportunity right now. He's just all over it. He started at as a laundry service, and then opened his own laundromat, and then got into hospitality. And he's just like, he's young and excited, and just he's willing to throw money at things and just kind of doesn't care. But it's worked out for him so far. I mean, he's lost some stuff, but he's also like gained a lot. And I feel like he's just getting ready to take off. And I just want to be, I like being around people like that. Yeah. I mean, you give me the same vibe. Like what you were just talking about, you wanted to do something that was like big, something that was bigger, something that wasn't just a small business. So, I had the same ambitions, and I did it. I've been thinking a lot about scalability, and it seems like something like a startup, that's really the goal. Like a startup, it almost seems inherent that it has to be super scalable, right? You're not going to, I mean, like restaurants are scalable to an extent, I mean, if you listen to like David Chang or Danny Meyer, you know, those guys are really fascinating in the way that they've handled it all. But I feel like there's some restrictions. There's a pretty low ceiling. You know, you kind of hit it and you're like, it's getting tight in here. Where I feel like correct me if I'm wrong, but startups really have like an inherent high ceiling in terms of their scalability.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of one of the features of, it has to be scalable. So like I build all this tech that powers my system. I build that tech once, right? It's very expensive to build it, but I build it once, and that tech can be deployed all over the world, right? And that's like a true startup. Like if I were to invent like a new kind of PowerPoint, right? That was going to be better than Microsoft PowerPoint. I would build it once, and then it would just be deployed all over the world. And even if I spend like $10 million building it, that's perfectly scalable because the marginal cost of getting an additional user is zero. My business isn't quite like that. I mean, I have all these other costs. To get into restaurants takes a lot of labor.
You have physical product.
Exactly. So it's not a perfectly scalable business. They're all a bunch of linear costs, right? Like every restaurant I add, every customer I add, I need more boxes, I need more tablets. So there are these things just like a restaurant. Every time, you need another table, you need another waiter, so there are other additional costs for every marginal.
You don't have rent though, do you?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah. Every time you want to grow your restaurant, you got to pay more in rent. So it's not that scale. But certain things do scale, like the accounting department scales. Like you have one accountant for one restaurant, or maybe one accountant for 20 restaurants.
Right. The systems are scalable. I mean, if you look at like a movie like Founder and how he just took that idea and kept going with it, that was really phenomenal. So like if I don't think I'd ever open another Della, but if I open another restaurant, I would totally take all my systems and everything here and just plug it in.
Yep.
So the things that, like you were saying, you have rent, you have all these expenses, but there's so much that can come out of this that is able to be replicated. I just think the payoff is a lot less than something like what you're doing. We'll see.
We'll see.
But that's the ambition and intention for you with this company.
Yeah. I mean, when we figure it out, like when is my company going to be profitable? Like if all goes well, the answer is like 2 to 3 years from now. If all goes well.
Restaurants are like 5.
Yeah, it could be 5 years. I mean, it could be a while. Could be a while.
And you started off not with the to-go container. I mean, I'm curious. You said you just like you wanted to do a startup specifically in restaurants and hospitality. What was it that drove you towards that?
Well, when I quit my law job, my dad was like, "You're forbidden from opening a restaurant." That's what I really wanted.
You'd be like, "Fuck you, Dad! I'm gonna do it."
Right. Yeah, I mean, my dad knows me, right? Like, what I really want to do is like do what you do, like have a little restaurant.
That's what you want?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
I'll sell you one real cheap.
I mean, so many New Yorkers have a fantasy of owning a restaurant or a bar. It's a very common fantasy, right?
Yeah. But I drink the juice. I know.
Yeah, I mean, you can disabuse them of that fantasy and why it's a bad idea. But I mean, it's very attractive. So I mean, I'm attracted to restaurants. I like it. I like the hustle of it. I like the scrappiness of it.
I would never talk anybody out of doing it either. Like I was the same. Like I was always a goal since I was a kid to like open a restaurant in New York City. And I have no regrets. There are, the more I learned about business, there are some reconciliations now on like what my initial goal was versus like the reality. That can be a big pill to swallow, but I would never talk anybody out of it.
Yeah. I mean, aren't you just so proud sitting there in Della? It's beautiful. It's your space. It's so
absolutely
real.
It's very real. It's very validating too, versus a startup. No, like digital services. I follow a lot of people that are in digital. They just have like an online business that maybe they just do like digital marketing or something like that. And it's like, that's cool. Some people are like super real about it, but some people are kind of like, is this real? And I think it can be a lot less validating versus like, this is really scrappy. It's not pretty. It's dirty work, but if you can do this, I feel like there's not much you can't do. I can't be a doctor, but I don't want to be either. No, you all don't want me to be. I would be like, just do some jujitsu. You'll be okay tomorrow. Put some duct tape on that. But what interests me too is like what Tor said last week. He started in startups. I kind of figure out a better phrasing for that. Started in startups. What's the proper way to introduce that sentence?
I like that.
Began in startups. It's weird. He started his startup career. This guy started startups.
He started began ups.
It's a tongue twister. But he was in education, and he developed this, this app for like scheduling for students. And even though education, like on surface value, it's a big enterprise, it's a big industry. He realized how much, like you were just saying, there's a lot more quick cash in hospitality. Like people are spending money. They're dropping like little bits constantly. You almost feel like a mob guy, like you're just hustling like that $5, like, man, I just got to get that money. But it's like that because it's available. Like the transaction rate is high, in like food and beverage retail and in service, it's just like quick. There's people constantly coming and there's just constant cash injections where like, with other services, you might only get paid once a month. It'll be like a bigger sum, but it's just like one big chunk. And then you're like, man, that's all I got. There is this sense of like, today could be the day, we might make a lot today, or you might not make anything, it could be like some chunk change. But I'm just wondering if that was like part of the allure too, going from law to like hospitality. Like you were saying, like you're making money day one, you open your door, transactions come in, like people are dropping cash on you right away.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I'm like a straightforward person, and like, I like understood that people are going to order food. It's going to happen.
People have to eat.
I could figure out a product around food, and it's a quick sales cycle. If you make if you're making the next PowerPoint, like. It's just long before you figured it out and before anyone buys it.
And so you started out. Give people a little context of how the startup began.
So version 1.0 of this was, and actually I always had in my mind that people introducing reusables, but version 1.0 of this, I was like, listen. If we could make a club of restaurants, if I could get 6 or 7 restaurants together and form a club, and then people, and maybe get like the core New York City takeout cuisines, like, a Chinese and a Japanese and a Thai and a Middle Eastern, like Indian, like the core, like weeknight takeout stuff that New Yorkers get. If I could just assemble like 6 restaurants like that together into a hub, then maybe people would subscribe to that. They'd commit and they'd say like, I will get 2 dinners, 3 dinners, 4 dinners a month from that club. And I ran that. I ran it in Park Slope. I went to restaurants, hey, you want to do this? Give a little discount to people if they commit to getting 2 or 3 or 4 dinners a month from this little hub. And this is not going to be like Grubhub, right, where there are a million restaurants. You're going to be like 6 or 7 restaurants in this platform. That's it. And people are going to subscribe to this. And I was always thinking like once the club is hot and going, then I can just introduce containers that are shared among all the restaurants in the club. Never even got that far because the business sucked. It just, people don't like subscriptions. Consumers don't like subscriptions.
Especially on that, like on something that's a much more spontaneous decision.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
Like prepared food purchases if they're not the highest, they're among the highest spontaneous purchases among consumers.
I know. I was just saying to my wife the other day, like, I go to the supermarket, I'm like, don't buy that pasta. It's like 20 cents too expensive. But then I'm like hungry at 7 o'clock. I'm like, just spend $80. It makes no sense.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
Man, talk about like if my wife goes to the grocery store hungry, she just comes back with like $300 worth of useless food. It's so crazy.
Exactly.
I'm just like, oh man, don't do that. And like I do purchasing for all these places, and I that's how I think about like our home purchases. But I don't go to the grocery store much, so I can't complain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. When you're hungry, you'll just go.
Just
go, especially if you got a credit card in hand.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying. Like people don't want to subscribe to stuff. It's much more of an impulse purchase.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I ran that business for a few months, really. And it's just, I had no traction. It wasn't good. And then I was like, we have to make, first of all, just roll out the reusable thing right now. Maybe people will be super attracted to that. It turns out they were. I was like, amazing. I'm so happy, so proud of my fellow New Yorkers who want an environmental solution. Like, I thought it was going to be like a niche thing that like, some people care about the environment. Turns out like everybody who gets takeout, even if you're not an environmental geek, they're like, dude, this is a crazy waste. Like they just made all this packaging to last for like an hour and then I'm gonna like get rid of it. What an insane system. And like, I believe that future generations will look back at this and be like, why the hell were people in the 21st century like making packaging to last for like an hour and then throwing it away? That's the dumbest thing.
If we're even still around long enough to look back.
But I think, New Yorkers get that. Even then, and maybe because we're all kind of progressive, but like, even if you're not an environmental geek, you understand how foolish the current system is. So people are into it.
Yeah. We're going to take another break, but I want to pick back up on that. And again, tying in like the message this week, social entrepreneurship and how you saw that and ran with it. And that ended up being like your springboard for success. If that's what you have. Well, to be determined. That's my little cliffhanger. So everybody comes back. They're like, I've heard enough of this. Oh shit. Now I got to come back. All right. So hang tight, everybody. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, everybody. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. My guest this week is founder and CEO of DeliverZero, Adam Farbiarz. And we were just talking on the last segment. We wrapped up tying back into the message of the week, which has to do with social entrepreneurship and the idea, one, the social aspect, doing something that's good, for yourself as a human, but also the world, trying to make the world a better place. So the way Adam accomplished that was through his reusable, recyclable takeout containers, which, ends up helping the environment. But then the idea of entrepreneurship and Adam, what fascinates me is that you noticed that, especially in New York, people were about that. Like you said, even the ones who were not like at PETA protests and like the enviro geeks, just people in general, just like your average person was already well-versed in the idea of like, okay, we should get rid of plastic bags. We should bring our own reusable bags to the grocery store. People, the compost bins in most neighborhoods and people were on board with this already. So you saw that and you were like, I want to get into the food and hospitality industry, like what's going to be my hook? And you saw that and you took it. And I think that's like core to entrepreneurship, is understanding that there's a need, there's a void, there's a service that needs to be fulfilled. And you just saying, I'm going to do this. Maybe don't know how, but I'm going to jump in. And that's exactly what you did.
Yeah.
Correct?
And that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, like, so yeah, what they always want to say is like, what's the problem you're solving? Right. Like, that's like, just start up first question. Like, what's the problem you're solving? And the problem I'm solving is like waste in takeout, single use waste. And when I presented that to some people, particularly early investors, they're like, bullshit. That's not a problem. No one gives a shit about that. And I'd have to be like, no, actually they do. There was an article in the Washington Post last week on September 14th about this problem. People hate this problem. And like, because it's an environmental thing, it's a social thing, like some people are initially skeptical. They're like, that's not a problem. That's just like some like hippie bullshit. But it's not true. Consumers consider this a real problem. It's a problem that needs to be solved. So like, that was kind of like a leap of faith, or it took a leap of faith in my fellow New Yorker to actually be like, I actually think that New Yorkers do realize this is a problem. And it turns out they do,
And that you're right. It is a leap of faith, because what people say and what people do are often two different things, where people are like, I support this, when it comes time to do it, there's like, especially like a lack of funding, sometimes a lack of financial commitment. You're like, damn, y'all, I thought you really wanted this, And I've learned that the hard way, for sure. But I think that always is the case. You always have to take that initial step and just see like, is the back pole really there? And in your case, it was, which in my opinion, equates to at least a certain level of success, and how you gauge that, whether it's financial or like accomplishment or a combination of both, that's up to you. But to me, that's successful. Do you feel that way?
Is the question, do I feel successessful? No, not yet. I don't have time to ask that question. I don't.
Good.
I mean,
he's hungry. I told you he was a fighter at the beginning.
I mean, listen, I am proud of certain things. I am proud that like DeliverZero is a thing in the world now. Like, our customers, they ain't my friends. They're not like, it's not like my mom's book club who's ordering from us. There's strangers who find us and are like, this is cool, I want this. And the fact that like we're becoming a part of the fabric of the city makes me proud. Have we succeeded? Not really, because it's not widely adopted enough, and enough restaurants and people aren't doing it. But, you know, I'm proud when people who I don't know, who are most of our customers, are just like, I want that thing, not because I'm friends with you, not because I'm your neighbor or whatever. Yeah. I just want it. That's a product that I want. And that makes me proud. But it's not a success yet by any stretch of the imagination.
And you're talking in terms of your reach and finances and
we're
sustainability.
Too small an operation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've been sitting here during this podcast, 2 people have ordered lunch from me. Okay. It's not bad, but like,
a few bucks. It's not, the show's not a complete loss.
Grubhub in the last 2 minutes, like, you know, 70,000.
And so, you know, you mentioned, and I pointed this out on one of our first meetings about this. Adam, you know, even when he was just starting to think about this, would pick my brain about certain aspects of it. I think on your first iteration on your website, you were saying you called out Grubhub and Seamless. You like named them your competitors, and I was like, damn, this guy ain't playing games, man. You like, I mean, are you sick of Grubhub and Seamless?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I was like, bro, you didn't do kickboxing that long. That's picking a fight. You're picking a fight.
Yeah, I mean, I should shut my mouth. My partners would say something, but like, that's something we talk about, like how much to villainize the other guys. You know, I want to villainize them a little bit, but not too much. And that's not for marketing, just because I don't want to be an asshole. Like, customers don't want to be around brands that are like asshole-ish.
Right. And my message last week was about, like, if you want to build the biggest building in town, I'm paraphrasing Gary Vaynerchuk. Are you familiar with him?
No.
One day you have to check him out. But something he's known to say often is, like, if you want to build the biggest building in town, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can try to knock all the other big buildings down so that yours is the biggest one standing, or you can just focus on building the biggest building in town, brick by brick, you know, and what do people value more, you know, is you like demonizing, trying to chop other people down, or just like really just building your own thing up.
Yeah.
But at least, I mean, you are like drawing a little line in the sand, like we're not them. And that part I appreciated, you know, like you have to distinguish yourself and like identify yourself. You have to, you know,
we're not them,
connect with you in some way.
Like,
yeah.
First, and we are a do-gooder company up and down. So we got the environmental thing, but like we're cheaper for restaurants than Grubhub. You know, we take a commission. That's how we make money, right? We give the restaurants the containers for free, the tech for free. There's no subscription, no sign up, none of that bullshit. Explain that, because companies like Grubhub and Seamless and Uber Eats are way under fire lately because of that. Yeah, we take commissions the same way they do. Although actually in New York City, the commissions are all lower by law during coronavirus. There's a law that applies during coronavirus.
What, 20% cap now?
20% cap for deliveries, 5% cap if they're just routing orders to you. So if the restaurant does its own deliveries. Right. So, which is great because, you know, New York City wants to prop up and support restaurants, not help Grubhub. I actually went to the city council and was like, dude, why is this cap applying to me? I'm like a nobody. I have no market power. But they're like, too bad. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, you know, we're do-gooder up and down. Like, our commissions are lower than Grubhub's. Typically, like, we try to make them basically like half of Grubhub's. Depends on what they negotiate. So, like, also, there are no hidden fees. There's no telephone fees. I mean, it's a whole world of, like, borderline funny practices that these companies do, but we don't do any of that. Like, it's just a straight low commission for the restaurant, no sign-up fee. You don't charge them for the reusable boxes, none of that stuff.
So who pays? Does the customer pay for the reusable containers?
No, the reusable containers I buy. These are expensive. I buy these containers. I give them for free. If a customer hangs on to a container for more than 6 weeks, if she doesn't return it after 6 weeks, we charge them. So each of these containers, if you hang on for 6 weeks without returning it, you're charged $3.25 per container. Of course, you return them because you don't want to be charged. And that's just sort of like, that's like the stick that we use to say, you better return it. But if you return it, there's no charge.
So how do you make money?
You make money from the commission. So, you know, you order $100 worth of food, right? You're sitting at home. I want some Chinese food. Order $100 worth of Chinese food. Let's say my commission is typically 10%. It could even be less sometimes. But let's say it's 10%. I take 10% of that order.
Oh, and it's coming through it's
the
coming through
restaurant
the
pays
site.
me. The restaurant pays me. Exactly.
The restaurant does pay you.
Yeah.
So you're essentially like a marketing platform for reusable containers on your site, whatever.
I make money the exact same way Grubhub and Caviar and DoorDash make money, except my take is smaller. Plus, I make this huge investment in all these boxes. I make this huge investment in with each of my restaurant partners. But the hope is that over time, that investment pays off.
Gotcha. Understood now. Cool. And so what have been, when did you transition? When did you start? Like, what was the year you started with the 1.0, and then when did you transition to oh geez
1. I'm gonna be embarrassed.
It was like 2018.
It took me forever. I don't know, something like that. 2018 I probably was doing the 1.0, and then it was just sucking too badly, so I turned it off. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go all in on the reusable thing on DeliverZero. I built it as quickly as I could build it, the tech. And then I flipped it on in November 2019. So in November 2019, I accepted my first DeliverZero order. And then it was like, I literally wrote on the local listserv, Park Slope Parents. I was like, I wrote to the Park Slope Parents dads. I was like, listen, I got this thing. I need some people to order tonight to see if it works.
Tonight.
and Susan Fox, the administrator of the listserv, was like, "You are not allowed to do that." And I'm like, "I just need some help. I wanted someone to order." And that's how it started. And 3 people ordered. I think I gave them free dinner or whatever.
Right.
And it worked. And then a month later, people were still ordering food, and the technology was so rudimentary. And then I basically I found my 2 partners, one of whom I know socially and one of whom I met at a meetup.
Yeah.
I found my 2 partners. I was like, guys, this is working. I need some help. And they're like, let's do it.
So it was just you at the beginning?
Just me. Yeah.
Crazy. I didn't realize, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that recent. So when I was doing focus groups here at the restaurant, and I invited Adam to one. We would just pick a Monday or Tuesday night, and I'd invite 5 or 6 people from different industries. We'd sit in the back of the restaurant, I'd open a couple bottles of wine and put out some food, and we just chew the fat on a topic. And Adam had you came in that was December or January at the latest. I didn't realize you were that fresh out of the gate at that point. And it's funny because we started talking about social media and how interactive your website was with your customers, and then all of a sudden everybody just honed in on what you were doing, and Bobby Seeger Jr. was there, and it got kind of crazy.
They were like, your social media sucks.
Well, they didn't quite say that. They said parts of it were great, and then they were like, but you need to do this and you need to do that. And that was not the intention at all. Yeah, you did get a little savage, but it was Bobby. I mean, that's what Bobby does. But anyways, I didn't realize you guys were that fresh out of the gate at that point. Crazy. Cool. We're going to take one last break, everybody. We'll be back in just a few. Finalize this show and hear what DeliverZero is up to these days. So hang tight. We'll be back in just a minute. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Last round of this show. Ding, ding, ding. Bringing back kickboxer extraordinaire, Adam Farbiarz. Kidding. But he is a fighter. He definitely doesn't mind getting his knuckles in it. So we were just talking about you launching the current incarnation of DeliverZero in November of 2019. Developing some momentum, bringing on some partners, and then, well, bam! Global pandemic really put a dent in the way restaurants operate, and how many of them even existed. I think, shit, man, it's down 50%.
How are you surviving? How is Della surviving?
Man, we got no loans or anything. We literally just got scrappy. Martial arts values, bro. Everything I learned over the last 5 years of training jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, and being under, learning how to handle pressure and learning how to approach adversity and look at it really helped me in a big way. Half my stuff left town. I didn't lay anybody off. In fact, the wine store was so busy, we doubled our staff there, and I offered everybody that didn't want to work at the restaurant a position there where they'd be making the same amount of money, and they literally just left town. So I took who was remaining, and my wife and I filled the rest of the gaps, and we just dropped any unnecessary expenses. We went with what the core feedback we were getting from people. I mean, we have the blessing of we had been in operation for 4.5 years, so we knew kind of, we had numbers to look at, real data, like what people were most interested in, and we just doubled down on that, and it worked. Again, it was a leap of faith, because I was like, do they want takeout? And we were takeout only we haven't missed a day. I haven't had a day off since February. We just put it out there that we were going to do this. And it turned into some really wonderful things. I mean, we were connected with Feed Brooklyn Heroes, and we were sending lunches to hospital workers. And that kind of thing has continued to where even last Friday we did, over 50 lunches for a local middle school, because they don't have cafeterias.
You got a kitchen, make them some food. Yeah.
Homeless shelters can't operate because they can't have people in there, and like all these crazy situations. So people just, locals have banded together and put these organizations together and collected money, and they're literally going to restaurants they know are struggling and saying, here, it's not a lot. It's just like your profit, you're not making a lot of money on these lunches, but that's not what it's about.
What are you making? Are you making like your schmancy food?
We make everything. Sometimes we do. Sometimes it's possible. Sometimes we make bolognese. But I try to hit all 4 food groups. I try to always have something fresh. I try to fill the box as much as possible. I want people that, we're sending it to teachers, to hospital workers, to, people that don't have food or accessibility to it. So I want it to be the best meal possible.
That's
Sometimes
good.
I just let my chefs do their thing, and, they're from West Africa, and I'm like, can you make a banging rice dish? And they'll make like a pepper sauce with tomatoes and onions and garlic and all kinds of healthy stuff and some green stuff. But then they also roast cabbage, and I'll put squash, and I'll put cassava. And then, we always put protein in it, unless they say, we need like a certain amount of vegetarian meals. Like when we were doing the hospitals, it was like, if they ordered 100 meals, they wanted 33 vegetarian. So we would just beef up on, we would put like a huge salad in there as well or whatever. But really getting involved in the community and doubling down on what people have shown that they really valued from us over the years, and then our community engagement. And those two things really made it work while things were really down. And then once we could see it outside, things kind of got back to normal. It's weird, like it's not a normal operation, but revenue kind of showed up as it normally does. And so July and August are typically our worst months of the year. And this year I celebrated that because our numbers were the same. So I was like, we met our worst months of the year. We matched that number. And it was a celebration this year, as opposed to like in the years past, I'd be like, oh man, this is terrible.
Right.
It's July.
Good enough this year.
I was like doing backflips that we actually made that money. We'll see how things go as the winter.
Yeah. What are you going to do what's your plan for the cold?
So, I mean, apparently on the 30th, we can start to seat inside at 30%, 25% capacity. And we're going to take that stab, we're going to take that jump and leap of faith. We're going to keep the doors and windows open like we have all summer, and continue to have like good ventilation. I got an HVAC guy come in to check the filtration system, but I've got the right kind of air system that they're saying is best. I just need to make sure that filters are up to par. Mask up and do the thing, man, and hope that sustains. We'll make adjustments as time goes, but it seems to me like for you it was a time for at least more attention. If not, if you didn't make any more money, everybody had to go to takeout.
Yeah, so well, I shut down for a bit. I shut down for a couple months in March. So why, I don't know why. I mean, I know why I shut down at the time. It was like end of March was like the height of the fear. We didn't know anything.
It's crazy. Right.
Me and my family went up to Greene County. We like rented like a mobile home in Greene County.
Nice.
It was a really interesting experience. I mean, obviously people want to take out, but like to make my business work, I have going to 1 million restaurants every day.
Yep.
And it was just like too much exposure for me personally and for my partners. I was like, I don't know anything about this virus. I don't feel comfortable meeting like going to 100 restaurants a day. Like it's too much. It was the height of the fear, if you remember back in March.
Of course.
But then we flipped the switch back on, obviously.
And when was that?
That was in June.
Okay.
It was in June.
And how have things gone since then?
Things are going good. We're back to where we're better than we were pre the start of the pandemic. We're adding a lot of restaurants right now. We're trying to build up the offering in Brooklyn. We're building up the offering a lot and quick in Manhattan.
Yeah.
A bunch of Manhattan restaurants are joining. But yeah, it's going good.
And so for us, you know, we're seating outside and our availability is less, but the really great part, and this was something that I've been trying to build for a while, where like we folded in a good amount of takeout into our business, especially on weeknights. That would have helped tremendously pre-pandemic. And I would say the same, like operationally, we're much better off than we were like on March 12th.
Are you doing delivery? Are you doing delivery?
Yeah.
You do the delivery, or you outsource it to one of the bad boys?
Both. Most of what we've gotten, I tried them all out going back to like 2017, and they all sucked, and I hated it. And I was like, and they were giving me no money. It was no revenue. It was laughable, you know, like monthly it equated to a bad day, like what they were giving me combined, like Uber Eats, Amazon Now, Grubhub, Seamless, you know, DoorDash, Postmates. Yeah. So I pulled us probably like 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, from all of them, and it was just internal, and we just didn't get takeout. People came to, I mean, you've been in here, it's like people come in to sit in this like gorgeous tomb, you know, they love the ambiance, and we set shit on fire behind the bar. That's what people wanted. But I had to put us back on all those platforms in mid-March, and they were all overwhelmed with onboarding a bunch of places. So it took some time, and people just knew to call us. I mean, we were very active on social media, and I had signage out front. So if you walk by, you saw it, and I was just like pounding it every day on Facebook and Instagram, and just on my personal pages, you know, like this is what's going on. We revamped the website immediately to reflect that. And I'd say 95% of our business came from call-ins and walk-ins, even during the pandemic. And I was just sending, you know, sending guys out on foot, you know, I didn't care, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'd call a friend that has a car. I literally have a couple of friends that are just like, you know, they live across the street, and they're out of work. So like, I'll give you cash if you just like run this delivery. And they're like, yeah, sure. They got nothing else to do. So just being really resourceful. And then, you know, we're still on with all those platforms, but they send me like 5 orders a week combined, all of them, you know?
Yeah.
But we're still doing, you know, 30, 40, 50 takeout orders a week, pickup and delivery. And it's
that's just locals who know you. Yeah.
Exactly. So again, just riding on our community connections and really like contributing.
So can I use your podcast to sell you on DeliverZero?
Yeah,
of
course.
You should get on DeliverZero.
Let's do it.
Handle your own orders. And we'll make a little teensy tiny delivery area for you, you know, just the neighborhood. Yeah, we could do it. We'll talk after the podcast. I'll sign you up.
Damn, you got me. He got me. You guys all witnessed that, right? I told you this guy was sly. He's a fighter. Yeah. No, absolutely. I thought about it like halfway through. I'm like, why am I not on this?
Yeah, why are you not on DeliverZero? I mean, well, the truth is, I know I have restaurants. I mean, I have plenty of restaurants that deliver here, right here.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
How many of them make fresh pasta though? How many make a fresh pasta?
You think that's a joke? I have a customer who literally, her name is Lydia. I'm not gonna tell you her last name. Who literally like ridden me like 2 times, being like, and I talked to her on the phone with once too. She called me. She's like, you have no restaurants on your platform that make fresh pasta. I swear to God.
All right. Call her today. Tell her she can order from me tonight. We got to wrap up. We got 60 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find out information, how they can sign up, how they can learn more. Go.
Go to DeliverZero.com. DeliverZero.com. You live in Manhattan, you live in Brooklyn, type in your address. You know, and you'll see a bunch of restaurants that deliver to you. Order some food. Make it zero waste. There you go.
You're slick, man. You're slick. I got to give it to you. You got me. No.
Thank you for this fun podcast, Jeremiah.
No, thank you for coming on. You know, I know I'll see you around, but I do wish you the best of luck in all this. And you're definitely an inspiration. So thank you. And I hope you all listening and watching got that same vibe. Adam's a great dude. So you keep up the good work. The rest of you have a great weekend. We'll check in with you next week. Peace out.